Hi, I'm Lily.
And I'm Dan.
And we are The Load In. For our guest today, we've got Paul Berger, President of ILEA Middle East and CEO of the Arena Group, and Saif Al-Khan, who is the VP of Events and Sponsorship at ILEA as well. Welcome, guys.
Guys, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it's really good to see you guys. Thank you.
Right, before we start, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
I'll start then. A little bit about me. I've been in Dubai 25 years.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. I came here for 3 years.
Didn't we all?
And never left. I've been in the events industry. I came here in advertising. Worked for BBDO in advertising, and then I went into sports and indirectly into events. Took over the Arena Group, well, actually was a company in 2009. It was called Harlequin. So I've been there running that business for 11 years, and I've been involved with ILEA since its formation, when we were invited to be one of the founding or startup companies that were created ILEA I think it was about 7 years ago when ILEA was first formed here, and then obviously now giving something back to the industry by being the current president.
A very interesting time.
Great time to be president, but delighted to try and give something back to the industry in these challenging times. And that's me in a nutshell. In a nutshell.
Safe?
I've completed about 21 years in Dubai, so that's a long time. Yeah. And by background, I'm a software engineer. So I landed in Dubai in '99, and I was basically working in the IT industry, selling ERP solutions, CRMs, and 2003, I got my migration to Canada, so I was about to leave Dubai, and that's when one of my clients gave me an option, why don't you just, join my company? And that was a group of companies which had event management, PR, social media, and all that. So that was my first exposure towards events, and then I'm like, okay, you know what? I think I'm going to switch my profession. And that's when I got the first event cracking out. It was Dubai Fashion Week. So that was an IP that I launched because Dubai being the fashion capital, but for the Middle East, but there was no standard event as such representing fashion. So then we went ahead with that, and then back in 2010, recession hit, and I almost I left Dubai. I'm like, okay, my chapter in Dubai is done. Back to Canada. And then I got in touch with a friend of mine who wanted to put another fashion event. You guys must have heard about it, Fashion Forward.
Of course.
So
that's the first time I ever saw you.
Yes.
I always remember you running up and down the catwalk just before the shows, making sure that all the VIPs were in.
Absolutely, yeah. So I come back, and then it started with Fashion Forward in 2011. And since then, it's been... Dubai Design District, and I've worked for Dubai Holding, Arab Media Group, done events, so the list goes on.
That's amazing.
And you joined with ILEA?
ILEA, I joined back in Jan 2020.
Stole him and made him stay.
Handcuffed him and made him stay,
and then since Jan 2020, I've been with ILEA, and it's lovely. The board is great. Paul's
you're very active.
Thank you. And that's all the thought process comes from Paul. It's his vision, and I'm just trying to implement that.
You're very kind.
No, it's really good though, because I'm going to say we know how hard it is, especially when it's a voluntary position and you have a business to run, to maintain that energy and that drive constantly, to constantly be working on something which essentially is a full-time job. It is a challenge. It's really nice to see someone come in with some fresh ideas and fresh energy, to really uplift people, because it's definitely needed.
Sure. I spend there are days I spend 16 hours on that chair in my bedroom, so I know the work pressure, but it's good. It's
but we're seeing it, so thank you
so much, guys. It's basically acknowledgement, and it's been like the industry that's given us all this while. Now it's time for us to pay back, so that's the idea.
For sure. And I think especially with what's happening at the moment and the current situation and potentially the future ahead, it's more important now than ever to have an association and which really represents its members and the industry and helps, I guess, push for some of the opportunities and the challenges which might be going forward for the rest of 2020, 2021.
Speaking of which, ILEA, we know what it is, but for our viewers out there who might not be quite aware of what you guys do, please do share.
So ILEA is a global events association. It's the International Live Events Association, headquartered out of the US. It's much stronger in the US in terms of its reach and membership base. Internationally, it's grown over the last sort of 10 years. The Middle East chapter was founded here about 7 years ago. And I think what people need to understand is that it is an independent association. It's not supported by the government. It's not supported by the DTCM or anybody associated. We don't have any grants. And it was set up to represent the member companies. And it's those members that came together originally 7 years ago to say, yeah, we feel we need an association. Paid their subscription, of which a percentage goes to ILEA HQ. And that membership base has now grown to just over 100 companies. We have a board, which is all volunteers. I'm the current president, and I have a board that supports me. We have one effectively full-time employee who is known as the chapter manager or the manageress, and that person is the link between the members and the association, and effectively drives the association and the activities. And I'm very fortunate to have Saif, who's as Dan
chomping
said,
at the bit to push forward, which is good.
And the more enthusiasm we have from board members, and people join, as Dan knows, people come onto the board, very enthusiastic, very bullish, and full of the joys of spring, and then within 3 or 4 months they disappear for different circumstances. We had a funny story. We had a board member who was Dan remembers this guy. He was very active, and his wife worked for Kareem, and when Uber bought Kareem, they disappeared. I think they made she was one of the founder members. So they'd obviously done very well.
Life was good.
And ILEA, was parked as an example. So people, circumstances change, and we recognise that. And as I said, having Saif, one of our newer board members at the moment, is extremely useful as we're going through these tough times. Yeah.
But ILEA is there in essence as a networking unit.
Yeah, I mean, it was set up really just to represent the members and the member companies, to organise, chapter meetings, networking events, to set up, industry talks, whether they're educational training, but primarily as a networking, like a lot of other associations are here. Now, here in this country, you cannot set up a legal association unless you're part of an international association. So there have been many attempts, I think, here to set up associations locally, but they can't. They won't be licensed by the Chamber of Commerce. So you have to be part of a global entity, which is why ILEA is in this country the only legalized association for the events industry. We would welcome more. But unfortunately, they would not be recognised under the bylaws in the Chamber of Commerce.
Maybe in time that'll change. Who knows?
Well, definitely, because things are always evolving. But I think I remember those conversations with Dubai Chamber when we were trying to get everything legalised. And the appeal for them was that obviously positioning Dubai and the UAE as a global city and a global destination for the events industry, it was very appealing for them to have that wider reach, to show that, through the association, to tap into the chapters of the US.
Making sure they've got that global standard, right?
Oh, of
making
course.
sure that that's what's brought in.
And that's actually something which is quite interesting. You just mentioned the ILEA networking side of things, which is obviously very, very important. But I think one thing which the UAE chapter, the Middle East chapter does particularly well, and I know it is a challenge, is the conversations and the dialogue that it does have with government entities, or supporting for a long time, making sure like the standards for health and safety were up to an international standard, and really driving it further forward rather than just being, I guess, a networky, socially type of association, which is like that in many other aspects in many other places in the world. I know in the US, for example, like they looked at envy with what the Middle East has achieved and what it wants to achieve by having these dialogue with, I guess, important stakeholders like the government.
That's a really great point to make.
100%. I mean, exactly as Dan says. I mean, we've taken up, members' issues and challenges. Whether it's intellectual property, IP's always been
Yeah.
a very sensitive
Payments.
subject. Payments,
Yeah.
freelancers,
Procurement.
licensing, procurement.
All of it.
There's been a
So
lot.
we've taken up a lot of these initiatives in the 7 years that it has been going, and there have been a number of presidents.
I was going to say, I think it's quite important that you mentioned it's only been 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people here, myself included,
forget
all
it.
of us, we
They
forget
forget
that.
that.
Yeah.
And we live in an environment or work in an environment where we want things immediately.
Well, not just
And-
that. Paul, when you became president, did you even imagine that you would be leading an association through a pandemic?
A global pandemic that shuts down the entire events industry.
Of course, that comes part of your career experience, right?
Absolutely. I mean, look. I mean, it's no, obviously, and but this is the time. It's easy, to run an association, or easier, I should say, to run an association. When times are not as challenging, but when it's a pandemic or when there's a recession or a disaster, it's when you need to step up. It's like running your own business. We all have to step up into these times, and so ILEA has done that. I know there's been a lot of within our industry, trying to understand what the association is doing, or and not getting perhaps the right message, and maybe our communication hasn't been as good as it should have been.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity to come here and have a chat today, just to explain a few things. But as I said, primarily, when this pandemic hit, everybody in the industry, whether a member or non-member, expected the association to step up, to come up with answers, to support the industry. And the first thing ILEA did was obviously focus on the 100 companies, or that fund the association. So what we did was immediately we put together a plea that we would submit here in Dubai to the Executive Council, asking for certain, relief and support to the industry.
How early was that?
That was prepared in May.
May.
That was prepared in May and submitted at the end of May. And we learnt a lot during that. And so we submitted that plea, signed by the ILEA board. And what we found out then is that with government entities like the Executive Office, you have to be a licensed entity here to be able to submit.
They won't even look
They
at
won't
it.
look at you. You have to have a trade license.
Yeah.
And I remember
Stamp.
we went down there. It wasn't stamped.
Yeah.
They
And they were
wouldn't
calling,
take
where
that.
was the stamp? And our chapter manager at the time, she was in lockdown in Indonesia.
Yeah.
So she wasn't even in the country, and we didn't know where the stamp was. But they would not accept the ILEA plea unless it was stamped, and that's when we knew, how important it was for any effort to be channeled through through ILEA, and that's when I recognised immediately then that we had to step up beyond just representing the members. So I then approached ILEA HQ to say, look, I need to open this up. There's no point in just representing the members. I want to open it up. I don't want to charge a membership fee to anybody in this industry. I want everybody to become a member of ILEA free of charge, so that we can represent the whole industry, because the more members we have, the stronger the share of voice we have when we're lobbying.
Have you had a lot of members come in, new members?
So yes, so what we did, it took with the US, they were very resistant to that, because that's not why ILEA was set up. It was to represent paid members. So our membership comes up at the end of June. So I then have now extended the membership free of charge until October.
That's fantastic.
Okay, and that allows people. So we've picked up another 30 new companies who've now, and it's growing every single day, that have come on board, so that we're a bigger share of voice. So now we've taken the stance of welcoming everybody who's got an initiative, an idea. So the second plea came about because of that. So
and that was the one with Harmeek.
Well, the one with Harmeek. So I was invited to join a webinar where he and his colleagues have put together 200 companies in our industry who wanted to sign a similar petition to go into government, not just in Dubai, but also in Abu Dhabi. And they realised that the only way that they should do this was through ILEA, because it wouldn't be accepted otherwise, and it was more powerful. And I said it's great backup to the one we've already submitted, and because we're opening up ILEA to just to bring in members free of charge, it was a good idea to support. And that's when we had this massive webinar. There were about 200 companies, leaders in this industry, who've now, and that plea has been put together. It's signed by the committee and all the member companies, whereas the previous one was just the ILEA board on behalf of the members. This was saying to government, here are 200 companies, and it's growing.
And it's going to be more.
Because there's also the website now as well, where people can...
Sorry, Saif,
Can you jump on?
No problem. So the crisis committee has come together, and now we've put up a microsite wherein you can actually go in and pledge your support. We're also running a financial impact survey.
Yeah.
So that's basically to benchmark the entire events industry, because if you actually go and try to look out for any kind of statistics, there's nothing available on the size of...
Well, I was going to say, there's nothing that exists. We've had those conversations from my days at ILEA. We were talking to the Dubai Economic Department for a long time, and there was no actual value to the events industry because...
no measure, right?
Well, nobody goes that data. You have that for the airline industry, you have it for hospitality, you have it for the trade centre, but for our segment, and particularly mine for entertainment, there was nothing there, and unfortunately you can't do anything without data, without actual tangible physical
but it's also
proof.
quite difficult because the UK's been having that same issue where I think it's the SIC codes or something, where even for the events industry you can't show the value enough of it. It's not correct reflection.
And we were having this conversation, people... The events industry has been massively impacted, probably in my view more than most others.
Agreed.
But it's not actually recognised.
You can't see it.
Because people, when they look at the events, they look at the venue. But they don't think about the people that fill the venue.
Of course.
And that's what's missing. So the venues are affected, obviously. But they don't. Everybody else is.
I was going to say, and here it's almost like events industry kind of gets like shoehorned as a subdivision of the tourism industry.
It's a tack on.
It's a tag on.
Of course,
It's a tack on.
Exactly. So if you look at the loss of revenue for the big venues like the Dubai World Trade Center or ADNEC, it's huge. So when you put that into the context of the study that were put out, this is what the government need. They need numbers. And for me, it's 3, 4, maybe 5 billion. In terms of revenues that the industry generates.
Well, there's power, but there's power behind facts and figures.
Exactly.
Hearsay doesn't go that far.
Exactly.
But I wanted to go back to the crisis committee. Tell us about that and what they're there to do.
So as the initiatives started with Harmeek and Pash coming together with a lot of industry members, we then opened the doors for everyone within the industry to come forward and support. So we're currently like 6 members on the crisis committee who've come forward, and it's still open. So we're still inviting people to come in. We've said that time and again through our webinars that we welcome members to come forward, and it's a commitment. So we also make them aware that specific number of hours per day would go behind your work with the association, but that's what is required right now.
But the work that's being, what are they tasked to do?
So right now, what the major KPI for the crisis committee is to lobby with government departments, different sectors, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. So it's basically government relations, trying to knock the doors and try to get some relief in any manner for the industry and the professionals. And also to add a point to what Paul mentioned, that we've waived off the registration fee until 1st of October for corporates. And Paul has been kind enough to also get us a special approval from ILEA HQ on getting individuals on board. So even professionals can now be ILEA members.
That's another subject.
That's great.
This is the collective we put together. We can talk about that shortly.
But before we move on this, and we did chat about this earlier, and I'm going to have to throw it because I will get shot if I don't, as a woman, broach this subject.
I can see where this is going.
Broach this subject. First thing I saw when that came up was fantastic that there's a committee. But before I could actually appreciate that, I saw 8 names and all 8 men. So as a woman in the industry, and we know there's a lot of women in this industry,
of course,
I found that a little bit of a surprise. And I know that people want to understand that more.
Safe, why? Why no women?
We're not going to blame you, Safe. However,
why no women?
So yeah, that's a point. That's a point, and we need women. So the whole idea is, as I mentioned, that we're still open and we're still inviting people to come on board, and women are stepping forward. I have some emails coming in from various women from the industry representing various sectors of events, and that's again a discussion which is happening right now. But shortly, I won't be surprised by next week if you see an update on the crisis committee with a few more women joining the team.
And I was just going to say, just to clarify as well, the initial release that went out, that's not by any means definitive. That's not the final committee.
No.
You're obviously looking for more and more people to join. I was going to say, what is the criteria for people to join the committee? Because I would assume that you would have to be a member of ILEA.
Yes. Number one, you need to be an ILEA member. Number two, you also need to have, like, each committee. Now, talking about the crisis committee, which is in formation right now, the basic benchmark is government contacts. That's what we're looking at. Yeah. So people who have government contacts, semi-government contacts, or can bring in any kind of relief to the industry can be a part of the crisis committee. Okay. We also have another committee which is still under formation right now, and we have not released the news about that in the media, is the technical committee. So ILEA now has a technical committee which is looking after the technical aspects of events, entertainment, leisure within the region. So, like, to address basic gaps, like in the UAE market or the Middle Eastern market, there's no guideline or there's no book as such, which me as an event organizer or a venue just pick up and say, okay, if I have a concert for 14,000 people, how many washrooms do I need to have? Yeah. There's no such benchmarking. So what we're trying to do is trying to put in a document together which has everything for small, medium and large kind event organizers, venues, entertainment section, artists, performers, DTCM permits, the process, how to go about it, the portal details, everything. So this guide is going to be like a...
Have you got women on that committee,
we've got 2 women.
Oh, cool.
Brilliant.
Please.
We've ticked the boxes.
Yeah. So we've got 2 women already over there. So and the first initiative is putting up this guideline, which I think is a basic requirement for the industry right now.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I mean, I'm probably going to jump way ahead, but obviously you've opened up the membership so people can join free now. It's not cost prohibitive. It's not. I think it's also very clear to announce and to make clear to everybody that ILEA is a non-for-profit association. Exactly. So it's not a commercial venture. It's not a revenue generating.
And it's a struggle at the moment.
It is a struggle,
like every business. It's a struggle because we have not. The membership is renewed on the 1st of July.
Probably the worst time ever to renew.
So we have zero income at the moment.
Only it was the 1st of January.
So it is volunteer. So
whilst you still have overheads to pay, you have a full-time member of staff, and you still have to go through the trade license and everything else.
Exactly.
In order to do that.
So we, like everybody else, we've asked for our trade license to be deferred, not waived, obviously, to be deferred till October, because as an association we won't see any income now really before Q4 of this year.
100%.
So we're completely aligned with
same boat.
Same boat.
Yeah,
and everybody, Saif and I, we're volunteers. We're just doing it for nothing.
I know that feeling.
Exactly.
We've been there, done that.
Yeah.
So I think so we mentioned because I think again, like going back to what some of the feedback was, I got a lot of phone calls and messages from people saying, "Oh, we didn't even know how to be involved." So I think the clarity is that you can join as a member, as we've discussed, and there's no fee up until October time.
Yes.
And when that will obviously be
and we may extend it. Let's
of course.
Who should people contact?
What's
the best contact?
I think the best way is get in touch with me. My email is out there. It's saif@ilea-me.com.
And that's SAIF.
That's SAIF.
Don't we have an info at ILEA?
And we've got info, we've got admin, so various emails. So get in touch with any of the emails, or
we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook. I saw posts.
Well, Google ILEA Middle East and you guys will find it.
You'll find there's lots of stuff.
Well, I think that's the interesting point, because I got a lot of phone calls that day, especially about the women when the post came out, and many people still don't fully understand what ILEA is or how to be a part of it. So I had some very lengthy, heated discussions with a number of people on social media platforms. I was like, guys, ILEA can only do so much. We as an industry also have to be out there to go, okay, well, how do I get involved? How do I become a member? How do I find out more about what you guys are doing? Because
in the history of ILEA, in the we've always, as you had on your board, and I had, there's always been a mix of male and female on the board of ILEA, and we had a female president not too long ago.
I think that for me, that's what I felt, and coming from a PR comms background, that's what I felt hindered. because it's not a reflection of you guys. So when that came up, I didn't get angry. I just sort of went, ooh, that's a faux pas.
Absolutely.
And and unfortunately, it had a knock-on effect. So instead of people being able to appreciate the fact that you're doing something, that you set up this committee, all they saw was 8 men.
Exactly.
So the topic went off.
Yeah. Especially without knowing the context of why those 8 men might be there in the first place.
Well, there is no chance. There is no
and
chance. That content went out.
Yes.
So as I said before, I would never have approved that to go out. I would have advised, guys, before you do this, understand, no one's going to see the positive message here. All they're going to see is that.
Yes.
And, as you've said yourself, Paul, your team is predominantly women.
Exactly.
This is not a reflection of ILEA. This is not who you guys are. So I think it was just a bit of a faux pas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But the good news is there's more women joining.
Well, more women will be joining.
Yes,
more
women
exactly.
will be joining. And
so I'm glad we cleared that. And okay, so I'll move on to the next thing. Recently, DWTC did AI Everything and Restart Dubai and hybrid conferences. CEO Issam Kazem mentioned in an interview that Dubai event and entertainment scene is to move forward with having a mixed offering in the future.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Well, it's a challenge. I mean, a mixed offering. It's it's a hybrid, I guess. And I was at that AI conference, which was more about tourism and hospitality and the effects of COVID-19 on Dubai and Dubai coming back. And it's great that Dubai is being proactive. I mean, Abu Dhabi, as we know, is much more cautious. It was made very clear at that conference that we are unlikely to see big concerts, gatherings, at Media City in the Coca-Cola Arena in the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, it's
when you say foreseeable future, that's more short term rather than long term. We're not talking like the end of 2021, 22.
I think he, when His Excellency was talking about it, I mean, he was certainly looking to the end of this year.
End of this year,
yeah. I would hope. But as he said,
it's always changing, isn't it?
It changes weekly.
I was going to say this is the important note because I was on the call that Charles initiated with the team from Media City with Issam,
exactly,
and where the Arabian business speaker came from, and Issam was very clear and very honest, and he said ultimately the main priority is the well-being and the safety of everybody that attends our events and making sure that we do everything properly. And he said it's such a fluid situation that on any given day things are changing constantly and there's no crystal balling, unfortunately. The long-term vision is, yes, big events will come back. People want them to come back, but it's going to be a staggered approach and it's going to be small at first, which is obviously we've just seen with AI and Dubai Summer Surprises activations, which are popping up around town now. And it will grow in scale and evolve. And it will be a mix of a digital offering and a live offering because people want some digital element as well.
Well, it's proving to increase your reach.
100%.
So it is a benefit.
If you go back 6 to 8 weeks and we ask the question, are you thinking of going away? Are you thinking of going on holiday? Nobody would have put their hand up.
100%.
If you ask that question today, a lot of people will put their hand up. It's changed. People are thinking about traveling. The confidence is coming back.
The
confidence is coming back. And I think the message from His Excellency, in the foreseeable future, there won't be a big concert. But he made it very, very clear, as the weeks go by, things are changing.
100%.
And confidence is coming
But also
back.
as well, we have to be realistic. Aside from, I guess, the pandemic and the health situation, it's like a big concert takes a very long time to organise. You need to schedule those artists and manage that whole side of things. And realistically, the entire industry stopped. So it's going to take a while for that industry to get moving again. So, if people are thinking, okay, we're going to have Mick Jagger performing next week, well, the reality is not, because it takes a long time to get Mick Jagger to perform.
But,
he's just being responsible.
But as you said, it is constantly changing. I honestly didn't think that the UK would be announcing on the 17th of July that surprise. As of 1st of October, conferences and sort of events coming back.
Yeah.
And it was great, that to hear the words coming out of Johnson's mouth that, yes, there's been great with digital. Yes, that has its value. Yes, virtual is great, but nothing will replace face-to-face.
Exactly.
Can't get a bigger endorsement than that.
100%. And also as well, if you look at the further comments and the discussions which revolved around that announcement, there's going to be a series of test events with the theatre industry and the live events industry throughout August, September to get to that point in October. And there's no reason why that won't be replicated around the world. We've already seen it with the AI event, which happened last week. It was a test event. We're looking at how we can really build upon this now for the future.
And a lot of people, at the AI event, were quite emotional because, they have to have the first event where you can physically see people in 3D rather than on Zoom, which people have been living on for 3 or 4 months. There were some of the speakers were taken back by the fact they could look out at an audience for the first time in 4 months and communicate and share. So I think it was a massive step that Dubai took last Thursday. A big plus.
100%. Also, as well, aside from the logistical elements of actually putting that together, from a global positioning perspective, it really did showcase Dubai as being open in a safe capacity, and also supporting the endeavours, I guess, of Emirates and Etihad and tourism, and just really getting the wheels back on in terms of.
Well, it was bold and confident.
Yeah, and most importantly, when I was
and creative.
Yeah,
exactly.
most importantly, when I was there, I felt comfortable.
Exactly.
I felt safe. I didn't feel compromised. I thought the precautions they took. It was a lot of people, but I really felt safe.
It's a great message.
Which is
to
vital.
the world.
It's vital for all of us to be able to get back to business.
Yeah. So I come from a technical and operations background. So I think looking at the way the Trade Center has gone ahead with the AI event, it was done really well. So right from your entry point, there were volunteers who were looking after the guests and taking care of the safety measures. The seating arrangement was done perfectly fine, 2 meter gap. So you don't feel like you're too close, and even the exhibition area was like not really overpopulated. It was well controlled.
It was nice. It looked really spacious.
It
actually looked really nice. It looked really creative.
And then the examples of sanitization, like working on the microphones and changing the microphones and all that. So you could see that they've implemented everything.
Yeah. Well, it's good because I know from the health and safety discussions with Gallo Glass, I know people like 3DB, and I guess lots of the technical companies, and I'm guessing even with you guys with Arena and the structures, lots of people are thinking about sanitation systems and have really put some hard work in there.
It's sort of becoming second nature now, isn't it?
And actually that was really important. Issam on the call with Charles, when he was talking about the future of events, he said Dubai is positioning itself as a benchmark for how to do events hygienically as well. So not just necessarily safe and creatively, but creating a new standard for how to do things properly.
Becoming a benchmark. That's great.
Hygiene perspective, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And it's really good to see people are actually really putting that effort into making it happen.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for the event industry over the coming months?
So
that's a loaded question, I think, right now.
Not at all. It's, if it's just words of wisdom, any insights that you have.
Look, I mean, my message.
Even you as a business.
I mean, I think it's my advice would be, from an association perspective, we're there. So if anybody wants to reach out, to talk, whether it's about financial issues, visa issues, because lots of things have changed, the rules and regulations changing. There is an association to support you. Just reach out. We have a legal advisor, we have a financial advisor. We've got people that we can put people in touch with. Don't feel alone, or we're here to help. I think and be positive. I mean, I think we're in a great city. The AI conference is a fantastic initiative, and I know with the Dubai Summer Surprises and with the DTCM there is a big push now to have regular events and moving forward.
Well, I think there was an announcement today, or there was a link to a social media post about potentially a calendar of events coming up. So I mean, people are talking, I don't know what all the details are, I don't know if it was fully published, but people are talking positively. Things will start to move, but what those things are, I think it has to be put into context. If it's going to be 15,000 people at like you said, a concert or sporting event, maybe not quite before the end of this year, but business events in particular will start to come back online again, and smaller experiences.
And I think there's two. I mean, from a business owner, you have to be responsible, and let's be brutally honest. The industry will come back, but it will come back. It might be smaller,
quite differently,
and we have to be responsible. The company, we're not going to be as big as we once were. We're not going to be billing as much as we once were. So the scale of the industry will obviously diminish slightly and build up over the few years. But I think on a freelance basis, it's going to be very positive. Because nobody wants to carry fixed cost. So I think this is going to be a very interesting subject here. The having freelancers here is going to be very, very important. I know for my business, being able to have access to a pool of talented freelancers is going to be
because then you can expand.
Then
and
I can
attract.
expand.
Yeah. I think the interesting dynamic is freelancers in particular have been one of the hardest hit throughout this, because they don't have that safety net of being, I guess, a full-time employee or the ability to have a reduced salary or unpaid leave. It's like literally they were let go the minute this pandemic hit. Yep. And we were literally dumped in the nicest possible way. And not paid. Yeah. And, it is a challenge. Like, all businesses are going through cash flow issues right now. Yeah. I think sort of retaining that talent or ensuring that talent comes back, I guess, in October, when things start happening, will be vital. Because I know as a small business already, we're a very minimal team. But if we're looking at securing projects, like hopefully we will do in the near future, then I'm going to need freelancers. Like, I don't want to be hiring more people because you just don't know what's going to happen. But using freelancers, which we can. Yeah.
So I guess the message there is, as freelancers, if you can hold tight.
Hold tight.
Yeah.
Well, that's the hard bit. It's the holding tight. Because everyone's been holding tight since the beginning of March.
Dubai's going to need people to be to come out of it, know, and that's why we certainly find that as a company, there is concern for the major clients that how are you doing, because once we get through this, we're going to need you there to do what you do, and if you're not there, we've got a problem. So I think the message to the industry is be patient. You are going to, your time is going to come. You are going to be needed. And particularly, as I said, when it comes to freelancers, it's
really easier said than done.
I know.
Exactly.
Because we rely on freelance
if you can't
performance.
Feed yourself.
I know.
Well, that's it. We rely on freelance performance talent, and we're having some really difficult conversations with people. And it's like, great, I could secure business hopefully in the next few weeks, a month, whatever. But it's like, who can actually do the business? Like, we're hemorrhaging performers and people which have been here for 13, 14, 15 year plus, which are like, you know what, I just don't want to belong here anymore. Like, I can go back to a home country, hopefully get some support. There's been no support for the creative industries, and I think that's going to be a real big challenge for us to start to rebuild afterwards.
Exactly, because people are going to think twice about coming back.
Well,
that's the sad truth.
That is the truth. The world in general, there'll be there'll be a reduced, I guess, employment options for the events industry. It will decrease. It will. But it's still expensive. We've still got bills to pay. We've still got things to do. So it's just trying to balance that fine line and make sure that we have the work available.
Be adaptable.
I think that's the key. Is trying to be fluid and adaptable.
Look at the aviation. If you're a pilot, it's just trying to be adaptable. I wouldn't want to be a pilot today. To try, you're not going to get another job anywhere in the world.
No, well, I think Icelandair have just made half their pilots cabin crew. I just read that. I was like,
exactly. But I think that was something to do with the conversations with the union. I think there was stuff going on.
I'm sure.
Stuff going on.
Exactly.
But you have to be adaptable. I think the events world, the world in general, has definitely changed.
Events people are generally adaptable and creative and
well, that's what we've talked about on many podcasts. We are very resilient, although we've taken a battering on this one. But the reality is, we're quite
going through a tsunami.
Well, but we are very resilient, and if anyone can survive this, the events industry will, because we deal with problems on a day-to-day basis.
Agreed. My last question: what's next for ILEA? You started touching on a few things, but I believe there's a few more.
A few more, yeah. So just carrying on from what Paul mentioned about the freelancers, ILEA soon is going to launch a job portal on our website.
It's up and running.
Yeah.
You can register.
So you can go ahead and upload your CV over there. So it's going to be like an open marketplace for companies looking out for freelancers. And it's going to be a new medium which we're starting, and if this goes as a success, then obviously there will be more opportunities coming up. Crisis committee is already there. Technical committee is already in formation. We are again looking out for members. I'm repeating that again on the crisis committee and the technical committee, and we are looking out for women on the crisis committee as well.
And of course, you got the pledge that went out.
The pledge went out.
People get on the website.
Yes, we're 300 plus companies right now on the digital pledge, and it's growing. The financial impact survey is going to be on till the coming Thursday. So we have a timeline as to as many companies, and it's an anonymous survey. So you just go on and just put in your figures, the losses, job losses, and just give it a shot so that we can benchmark the industry size and then put that forward as statistics to the government and tell them that this is the impact and this is what we want. We have a lot of asks, but then we don't have material to show them our size, our strength.
Just in terms of that ask, has anything been actioned? I guess from there was lots of recommendations in terms of how to support the industry, but has anything actually come of
it? Some small wins.
I mean, it's difficult.
Yeah, let's finish with the small wins.
I was going to say, because we had that conversation with Andrew from Barclays last week from the BBG, and they put together a number of options for stimulus packages and how to defer VAT and things to keep the economy going. And it's just really difficult to get everything done because there's actually so much to do. Yes. But yes, if there's any small wins,
I mean, we're very close with the DTCM, and all the subsidies that have recently been announced by the DTCM have come from our lobbying and
That's
many
great.
So they're small wins. I think Harmeet, I know in 2454 is actively engaged with trying to get rent waivers down there. We're going to do the same here, approach the likes of TCOM and the design district.
That would massively help.
Because that would really help.
On a personal level, I've been paying rent. I've been paying rent for 6 months on an office that at first I wasn't allowed to use, and now there's no point using. So you ask the question of why do I have to have an office?
But to answer your question about ILEA and what next, I think from my perspective, like everybody here, it was the first thing was survival.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the president that has to close down ILEA. That would be horrible.
God, that would be horrible.
Thing. So for me, it was survival. Then it was a case of, we need to reset ourselves as to who we are as an association, which we've done, and then to come out stronger. When we get through this is to come out stronger as an association. So we have a bigger membership base, but more importantly, the industry sees the benefits and the relevance of what ILEA can do. And if we can achieve all those, then I'll be very happy. It's always
been a challenge because everyone always questions the relevance and the why behind everything.
Well, exactly.
But hopefully today they're getting a bit more of an insight.
And we'll get Ian to join, and that.
I need to rejoin. But I think now more than ever, I mean, we all have our opinions, and we definitely, we all come from different angles.
But we've got to come together.
But we've talked about this multiple times throughout all of our podcasts and with the guests, and I think if there is one takeaway when we come out of all of this is that the industry does need an association. It actually needs that regulatory type of body or collective of people which can actually set standards for our industry, but also then potentially look at solutions for the next time we go through something like this. Never in my wildest dreams would I think that our industry was shut down for at least 6 months. And there's lots of learnings.
It's important for everybody to know and recognise ILEA is not set up just to represent the biggest companies in the industry. It's not elitist. We've set up the Wedding Planners Alliance, the Middle East Wedding Planners, which are anybody working in the wedding industry. We've now got this creative collective.
Yeah, I was going to say, good job you mentioned that, because otherwise Charles and Maxine,
we've had them on the show.
Creative collective are very important for us. Effectively, the entertainers, the freelancers, the performers,
and that's a demographic which has often been neglected.
And it's missed. We've brought them in. We've now opened it up to bring in everybody for the next 3 or 4 months, and then people can choose whether they want to continue. And it's not about, and in terms of representation, even on the board, it's male, female, young or old. It's not about, you don't have to run a big company.
It's about what you can bring to the table.
It's what you can bring to the table. And if you've got the time and you want to give something back to the industry, we want to hear from you. It's not, as I said, set up by a few key big companies. It's nothing to do with that.
But I think it's about finding that balance, because you do need those big companies and those people with gravitas to have those conversations. I think when Harmeet was here, him as Plan B, they employ hundreds of people. So when they go into government or DTCM or whatever, they can have conversations which obviously are the challenges which are affecting them.
Sure.
But then also we need the freelancers and the people from the creative collective.
We need a cross-section.
To come up with their
for me, emeritization is the important thing.
100%.
As Dan knows, it was always my goal when I took over that I would hand over to an Emirati. So we've got 2 Emiratis on the board.
That's fantastic.
And now I'm going to achieve that goal. And hand over to an Emirati. Should have been a woman, but
next time it will be.
I've got the Emirati, and I'll stress to Khalid that he needs to find his successor. But no, the right person.
It's got to be
the right person. It doesn't matter who they are. It's the right
male,
person.
female,
absolutely,
whatever.
Absolutely, and we're really happy that Khalid has offered to step up, and he will be next year the president.
Nice. And he carries gravitas as well.
does,
He does. I saw him
does.
on a webinar recently.
For
sure.
Very nicely spoken, easily spoken,
He cares.
very knowledgeable.
He cares about
very
the
approachable.
association.
Yeah.
Very approachable. Listens to everybody, and he'll be a great president.
Oh, we might have to get him on the show.
100% next time.
Yeah.
All right.
We were working it.
Well, on that note, thank you guys so much. It was an absolute pleasure having you guys in, and I think we've learned a lot today.
No, 100%. Thank you so much. It's good to see all the hard work that's going on, because I know there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that nobody actually sees. We're all quite vocal, but yeah, thank you so much for joining
And
us.
to everyone out there, join up.
Yeah, 100% join
up.
Join.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, guys,
Pleasure.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.